and unbeatable spirit. You won't want to miss it.
Tune in for our live special coverage Saturday, June 14th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on NTD.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Today's stories. President Trump warns Iran to make a nuclear deal before there's nothing left. Trump said many Iranian leaders are dead after Israeli strikes and says what's coming will be even more brutal. An Israeli envoy addresses the United Nations talking about the strikes on Iran, what he says about the threat from Tehran, and reported plans of building a nuclear bomb. The military says about 200 Marines have moved into Los Angeles and will protect federal property and personnel. Kilmar Abrego Garcia pleads not guilty to human smuggling charges in Tennessee federal court. President Trump saying he would issue an order soon to address the effects of his immigration crackdown on the country's farm and hotel industries, which rely heavily on migrant labor. We speak to a panel. And we have details on the lone survivor of yesterday's tragic Air India plane crash. And what does the Air India crash mean for Boeing?
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. The Middle East, Israeli forces have launched a series of airstrikes in Iran, taking out Iran's nuclear facilities and also some top military leaders. And just about 30 minutes ago, Israel launched renewed attacks on Iran as local evening fell today. Iran's supreme leader has now said Israel will face severe punishment following the attack. NTD's Jason Perry has the latest.
In video released on Thursday evening, Israeli fighter pilots were seen boarding aircraft to go strike Iran's nuclear facilities in a mission called Rising Lion. And soon after, smoke was seen rising in the skies of Tehran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iran was getting very close to making a nuclear weapon, and he said Israel would not allow anyone who vows for Israel's annihilation to achieve that goal, and that Israel backs those words with action.
We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program.
On Thursday, smoke was seen pouring from one of Iran's underground nuclear facilities. Israeli forces said that more than 200 Israeli fighter jets struck over 100 targets across Iran, including the hideouts of senior operatives in the Iranian military leadership. However, Iran's supreme leader said that Israel would face severe punishment following the attacks, according to Iran's state-run media. And Israeli forces said that Iran had launched 100 attack drones at Israel. And Israel released video showing the Israeli Navy and Air Force intercepting Iran's attack drones. Meanwhile, the state of Israel remains on high alert as Israeli hospitals prepared underground wards in the country. An official gave this update to residents.
Again, David Adom advises the entire population to follow the instructions given by the Home Front Command. Ensure that your safe rooms are clear, available, that you have food and water in there in case you have to remain in there for a long time.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the military operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove the threat. Jason Perry, NTD News.
After last night's strikes, Israel is urging citizens abroad to not display Jewish or Israeli symbols in public places. Meanwhile, an Israeli envoy justifies the attacks before the United Nations today. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has more on the impact of the strikes.
This was a calculated and necessary action.
Israel's envoy to the United Nations explains the reasoning behind Thursday's strikes on Iran. Israel targeted Iran's nuclear sites as well as high-ranking military leaders. The Israeli envoy suggests the strikes on the nuclear facilities were necessary.
Intelligence obtained by Israel revealed a secret program to develop all necessary parts of a bomb.
He added that there is evidence that Iran was planning a surprise attack on Israel. Meanwhile, in countries across the globe, Israel is temporarily closing its embassies. Citizens are being advised not to display Jewish or Israeli symbols in public places. The government is also urging Israelis abroad to cooperate with local security services if faced with hostile activity. Israelis abroad are also being encouraged to fill out a form to update the government on their location. Now, this was also done after the October 7th attacks by Hamas. That's so that Israel can, first of all, coordinate the return of its reservists and also to organize rescue flights. And global leaders are now reacting to Israel's preemptive strikes on Iran. Most of them are calling for de-escalation, such as an official with the German government.
Und gleichzeitig kennen Sie auch unsere Haltung. Wir fordern alle Seiten dringend dazu auf, von Schritten abzusehen, die zu einer weiteren Eskalation führen und die
French President Emmanuel Macron condemns Iran's nuclear program, adding that France reaffirms Israel's right to defend itself and ensure its security. He also calls on all parties to exercise maximum restraint and to de-escalate. Macron added that he was on a phone call with the heads of state of Germany, the UK, and multiple nations in the Middle East. Macron says peace and security for all in the region must remain a guiding principle. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Thousands of aircraft that fly between Europe, North America, and Asia moved away from Iran today after Israel struck Iranian nuclear sites overnight. Aircraft transiting between east and west were flying over Saudi Arabia, south of Israel, and over Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Usually that traffic flies along the Iraq-Iran border, with Israel to the west and Iran to the east. The Gulf is home to two major transcontinental hubs in Qatar and Dubai. Since the closure of Russian airspace to many airlines in February 2022 over sanctions, it has become one of the major pinch points in global air transport between the two hemispheres. President Trump warned Iran today to agree to a nuclear deal before there's nothing left. Trump wrote that further Israeli attacks on the country would be even more brutal. The post marked Trump's first public comments since Israel launched strikes on Iran targeting its nuclear program and military leaders. Trump said he gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal, but no matter how hard they tried, they just couldn't get it done. In a brief phone call with CNN, Trump also called the strikes on Iran a very successful attack. The president said, quote, "They should now come to the table to make a deal before it's too late." Trump also wrote on social media that he gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal 2 months ago, and the attack happened on day 61. Trump added that perhaps now they have a second chance. During a phone interview with the Wall Street Journal, Trump also said he and his team were aware of Israel's attack on Iran. Trump was asked what kind of heads up the U.S. got before the attack. Trump said it wasn't a heads up, adding, quote, "We know what's going on." According to the Journal, Trump also said he talked to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday and planned to speak with him today as well. Israel's attack on Iran has introduced significant volatility into the oil market. At one point, prices in the U.S. soared 13% per barrel after the attack. That price has fallen for now, but is still up 7%. The spike is based on fears that a wider conflict in the Middle East could disrupt oil supplies. Analysts say if Iran pulls out of the global market, oil prices could jump by about $7.50 per barrel. That's more than 10% to the current trading price. Other areas of the market are also responding to the conflict. S&P 500 futures are down 1.4%, and gold rose about 1%. A U.S. military commander says about 200 Marines have moved into Los Angeles. They're ordered to protect federal property and personnel.
There are approximately 200 Marines that are at that location, companies. Yes, they all, as part of the standing rules on the use of force with our JAGs, and certainly our JAGs with the Marine Judge Advocate General officer, a complete comprehensive review of the standing rules of force for all soldiers and Marines that are doing that.
Now, that was Major General Scott Sherman. He's the Defense Department Task Force 51 commander. During the press conference today, General Sherman said that the Marines moved into the Wilshire Federal Building in LA last night.
There are approximately 200 Marines that are at that location, companies. Yes, they all, as part of the standing rules on the use of force with our JAGs, and certainly our JAGs with the Marine Judge Advocate General officers, a complete comprehensive review of the standing rules of force for all soldiers and Marines that are doing that.
A federal appeals court has restored President Trump's control of the California National Guard. The court yesterday put a hold on a district court ruling that returned control to Governor Gavin Newsom. The order will stay in place until at least Tuesday, giving the administration at least 4 additional days control of the state's guardsmen. Trump deployed the National Guard troops amid protests and riots in Los Angeles. The district judge in the earlier order said Trump's actions federalizing the Guard were illegal and exceeded the scope of his authority. Los Angeles police arrested several demonstrators who refused orders to leave a downtown street last night. It was the third night of an early 8 p.m. curfew. Earlier in the evening, officers with the Department of Homeland Security deployed flashbangs to disperse a crowd that gathered near the jail. The protesters then sprinted away. The Department of Justice advised its nearly 100 U.S. attorney offices yesterday to be prepared for criminal investigations into thousands of planned No Kings protests happening nationwide tomorrow. A DOJ spokesperson said the department respects the right to protest peacefully, but will not tolerate unlawful violence and destruction of property. In an arraignment proceeding today at a Tennessee district court, Kilmar Abrego Garcia pleaded not guilty to charges of unlawfully transporting illegal aliens for financial gain. At a news conference before the hearing, his wife read a statement from him.
To all the families still fighting to be reunited.
Para todas las familias que todavía están luchando para ser unidas de nuevo.
After a family separation.
Después de una separación familiar.
Or if you too are in the detention.
O si tú mismo estás en detención ahorita mismo.
Kilmar wants you to have faith.
Kilmar quiere que tengas fe.
He said.
Él dice.
These dark times are where we're facing all the tribulations that God has put in our path.
Estos tiempos oscuros son algo que Dios ha puesto en nuestros caminos.
But keep praying and keep fighting.
Pero continúa a orar y continúa luchando.
The Trump administration has claimed that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13, which he and his attorneys have repeatedly denied. Abrego Garcia was transported to the U.S. from an El Salvador prison to face criminal charges after 3 months of judicial pressure for his return. He's remained in the custody of U.S. Marshals in Tennessee since his arrival in the U.S. Attorneys on both sides are expected to argue this afternoon on a motion to keep Abrego Garcia in detention while the case is pending. His attorneys argued in court filings this week that he is not a flight risk and that legal standards to keep him detained have not been met. The Department of Homeland Security says 4 detainees have escaped from a federal immigration detention center in Newark, New Jersey. Newark's mayor had cited reports of a possible uprising and escape after disorder broke out at the facility last night. Protesters outside Delaney Hall pushed against barricades as vehicles passed through gates. An attorney for a detainee at the facility told NJ.com that detainees became violent after meals were delayed. Delaney Hall has been the site of clashes between Democratic officials and federal immigration officers. On May 9th, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was arrested and charged with trespassing. The charge was later dropped. Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver was also arrested at the facility. McIver is charged with assaulting federal officers. The New Jersey Democrat denies the charges. The Department of Justice is suing New York over a law that blocks immigration-related arrests at courthouses. Attorney General Pam Bondi said yesterday the policy prevents law enforcement from apprehending illegal immigrants. The lawsuit targets New York's Protect Our Courts Act. along with 2 executive orders by former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Federal officials argue the laws interfere with immigration enforcement and violate the U.S. Constitution's Supremacy Clause. But New York officials say the state has the right to manage its own resources and protect personal data. Governor Kathy Hochul was testifying before Congress the day the lawsuit was filed. She said the state does cooperate with ICE on criminal matters. Coming up, President Trump saying he would issue an order soon to address the effects of his immigration crackdown on the country's farm and hotel industries, which rely heavily on migrant labor. We speak to a panel, that and more after the break.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids, and just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids, just in case I didn't make it. Be strong. Take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org with your donation to help save lives. You can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that help save my life.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
Heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S. That's why it's so important that you call or go online right now with your generous gift. I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. We all need your help. And your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now with your gift of any amount.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
President Trump recently said he would issue an order soon to address the effects of his immigration crackdown on the country's farm and hotel industries, which rely heavily on migrant labor. To discuss this topic, we're bringing in George Carrillo, CEO of Hispanic Construction Council and former director of social determinants of health for Oregon, and as well Michael Busler, a public policy analyst and professor of finance at Stockton University. So first of all, good afternoon to you both. George, I'll start with you today. President Trump has acknowledged that the sweeping immigration policy is negatively impacting some specific industries and farmers. Now, given what he said previously about illegal immigrants and deporting them, were you perhaps at all surprised at this development?
So I was actually very happy to hear the stance that the president is now taking. It's just that acknowledgement of what immigrant workers bring to this country. There are the criminal elements, and we support the president in getting those criminals out. We think he's done a good job with securing the border, but now we need to talk about the economic development of this country and understanding that we do have a workforce shortage. Just like in construction, we're about 500,000 workers short. Through our study, we estimate 1.3 million workforce shortage by 2030 if he doesn't change course on his deportation policy.
Okay, so Michael, you're very familiar with the hospitality industry. Can you speak to this issue as well? Do you agree with what George is saying?
Absolutely. So I'm very familiar with the hospitality industry. I live down beach from Atlantic City, and they rely on a migrant population really to keep the whole town running. The thing is, we have to have legal immigration. So if there are people that need to work here, there is a program to get work permits where they vet these people, make sure they're not criminals and they are indeed hardworking people, and that's the kind of people we want. So there will be a program to vet these people, and they will be given work permits. And once that happens, that should allow for enough immigration to occur legally with these work permits. They'll vary on things like time. Just west of where I live in Hamilton, New Jersey, it's the blueberry capital of the world. So I know they rely on a migrant workforce to help harvest the blueberries, but they all get work permits and they're here legally. So I believe the Trump administration will set up a process that will allow migrants to come into the country, to work here, to live here. There'll be some constraints, maybe about time and things, but it's very valuable. This country was built on immigrants. My parents were immigrants. So it's very important that we recognize how important the immigrant population is. And we just need to do things legally so we can keep the bad guys out and let the good guys come in and work.
Okay, George, we have to have legal people in the country. What do you say to that?
So I agree, but to the extent that we have, somewhere between 11 and 13 million people that are undocumented here, and we need to provide some sort of pathway to be able to retain that workforce, because without them, it will devastate our economy. It devastates our way of life. When we think about the construction industry, clean drinking water, the roads that we drive on, the infrastructure that needs to be created through natural disasters. So we need to create that pathway. We've actually have moved in a very aggressive approach. This week, we've emailed every single member of Congress from the House and the Senate, proposing our policy on building America stronger. And that policy is to provide a pathway for a work visa for people that are undocumented. They pay a restitution fine. We make them taxpayers, and this will generate approximately about $50 billion in new revenue over the next 5 years. And we're asking that revenue to be reinvested back into the Workforce Development Act, so that way we can start building this pipeline of essential workers that we need.
Okay, so President Trump is saying that changes are coming. Michael, what does that mean? What changes can we expect?
So they're going to have to figure something out. As George mentioned, there are millions, 10 to 12 million people that have entered the country illegally. Somehow there has to be a penalty or something for doing that. Otherwise, everybody's going to continue to try to get in here illegally and then try to find a job and say, well, I'm here, I need a work permit. So they're going to have to come up with a plan that addresses this. The other problem is, what about all the immigrants that came into the country legally and they spent years becoming a citizen and doing the right thing? We have to recognize that they did it in the proper way, and people that did it in the improper way, we're somehow going to have to find a balance that recognizes we need the people to work here, but we can't allow people to come into the country illegally. Maybe there's some kind of a thing where you tell them to go home and then reapply for admission. They have a job already and they come back. Maybe something like that would be able to work. But to just say to the people that are here illegally, well, we need you, you have a job here, we're going to let you stay. I don't know if a fine or something is enough. We'll have to see with what the Trump administration comes up with. This is a very difficult problem.
Okay, George, can you comment on that in terms of fairness? The legal people who came to the country legally, what is the right balance here?
So I think the right balance is to acknowledge that this problem is something that we've inherited. It's been kicked down from administration to administration with no solutions over decades. And now we're at this moment in time that we need to come up with a solution. And now is that time. When we think about a fair process, right now, undocumented immigrants pull an ITIN number, and they contribute about $90 billion into our tax revenue. $33 billion of that goes into programs like Social Security, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, and understand that they're not eligible to receive any of those benefits. So we are getting a benefit from that, from something that they will actually never be able to use. And when we think about the people that have come here legally, that's great. Let's figure out a system of being able to reward them. What do we look at as far as time frames for them to actually become American citizens? In our proposal, we're not talking about amnesty. Our proposal is talking about a work visa. It's not talking about amnesty. It is talking about creating revenue that is going to provide money to educate the future of our industry. So we're reinvesting that money right back into the American people. I think that this is a compromise that everybody can agree that, hey, we don't want to stall progress. We've stopped the bleeding at the border. Now we need to start continuing to talk about solutions because the American people need solutions.
Okay, Michael, so you're downbeat from Atlantic City. Have you heard of the impact of Trump's immigration policies, perhaps affecting the area, people locally?
So there are a lot of people that are nervous. The thing is, many, and maybe even most of the people that are here illegally have been here for 20 years. I remember back in the early 2000s, there was a large migration from Mexico. And these people are now part of society. Some of them have children. I know people that have grandchildren. So somehow we need to make it right so that they don't have to feel nervous about what they're doing. It's the people that came recently that came across the border illegally. Somehow, with a work visa makes a lot of sense, but somehow we have to come up with some kind of a balance that recognizes that they did something illegally. However, they are here now. They are contributing to society. They have a job. As George mentioned, they pay taxes. There are also a large number of illegal immigrants that go to states like California, and they give them a lot of free care. And that's costing the state of California too. So again, this is a very difficult problem. We need to come up with something that is fair to everyone and allows the economy to continue to prosper. And the people that came here that are good, hardworking, honest people who are looking for a better life, recognize they didn't come here legally, but they are contributing members of society. So somewhere there has to be a balance there that recognizes all this.
So George, has Trump's immigration crackdown, has it hurt the labor force, the economy?
Absolutely. Just like what we saw a couple of weeks ago in Tallahassee, where there was a raid and 100 people were detained on that construction job site. And that was a multifamily housing unit that was building 250 units. That is tens of millions of dollars, and 100 people on a construction job site is devastating. It's devastating to the bottom line, project delays, and being able to house more people in these multifamily units. And we're seeing this simply across the country as there's raids that are going on, less people are showing up to work, whether they're afraid to go to work or they've been deported. And like I said previously before, when we have a workforce shortage of 500,000 people, all-time low unemployment rates, we don't have a pipeline of trade skilled workers ready to take over. The industry is devastated right now, and many people are wondering, how do I invest? How do I develop if I know that we don't necessarily have a stable workforce in order to be able to complete all of these jobs?
Okay, Michael, your response to what George is saying.
So the Trump administration is focusing on people that are here illegally who have some kind of a criminal record. Now, some other people may get swept up in this, but almost all of them that they're going after have a criminal record or have committed a crime here. So as long as the people who are here, even though they're illegally, as long as they follow the law, do what they're supposed to do, I think we can work out some kind of a pathway to at least allow them to work. The people that should be afraid are the people that are here illegally and have broken laws, either here or where they came from. There has been some amount of crime. I've seen statistics, migrant crime is less than the regular population crime, and that may be true. But if somebody is in here illegally and they shouldn't be here, there really shouldn't be any crime from them because they shouldn't be here. So if, as long as you haven't committed a crime or you're not guilty of doing anything, I wouldn't be afraid of being detained by ICE. It's the people that have done things wrong that we have to worry about.
Well, all right, we're just about out of time, so we'll end it here today. Thank you both for coming on today, Michael, George.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Moving on, the sole survivor of the Air Canada, or rather Air India plane crash, spoke to a local reporter today from his hospital bed. Officials have also recovered the aircraft's black box, which may shed light on the crash that killed more than 240 people on board. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Ramesh Vishwash Kumar got lucky. Police say he was in seat 11A near the emergency exit and managed to escape through a broken hatch. He described the experience to a local broadcaster.
Everything happened in front of my eyes. I don't believe how I survived. For some time, I thought I was also going to die. But when I opened my eyes, I realized I was alive, and I tried to unbuckle myself from the seat and escape from where I could. It was in front of my eyes that the air hostess and others died.
Vishwash Kumar was filmed after the crash limping on the street in a blood-stained T-shirt. The sole survivor detailed the last moments of the flight.
After the takeoff, within a minute, it felt like the plane came to a standstill in air for 5 to 10 seconds. The green and white cabin lights turned on in the flight. I could feel engine thrust increasing to go up, but it crashed with speed into the building.
Meanwhile, India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has begun its probe into the cause of the crash. Key to the investigation will be the plane's black box flight recorders. There are 2 recorders, a cockpit voice recorder and a separate flight data recorder.
All together with the flight data recorder that includes all the speed, altitude, control input, and the cockpit voice recorder with the cockpit conversation, they provide the investigators with a fairly detailed picture of what happened and how the crew responded.
The boxes are not actually black, but high visibility orange. The device's durability also helps investigators.
They're built to withstand high forces, high impact crashes, intense fires, deep sea pressure, for example. And again, they are usually located at the tail of the aircraft to increase the survivability.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
In addition to examining the data from the black box, a forensic dentist is working to identify the dead. He said he and his team are working tirelessly to give closure to the victims' families.
There are three primary identifiers. One is the fingerprint. Second is dental characteristics, because teeth can withstand the heat. And third is the DNA. DNA is of course the gold standard. But if any one method can prove that the identity is positive, I think the body can be released to the nearest of the kin so that they can perform the rituals and all.
Now, such testing is necessary when the bodies of the crash victims are charred beyond recognition. Air India Flight 171 was headed for Gatwick Airport yesterday, south of the British capital. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, with 242 people on board, crashed into a medical college hostel during lunch hour. Authorities expect to find more bodies at the crash site. Boeing leadership is back in crisis mode following the deadly crash of the Air India 787-8 Dreamliner jet. The incident also spells big trouble for the airline's turnaround plans. Here's the story.
Now the incident has Boeing bosses back in crisis mode, with the 787 one of the firm's best-selling models. It's in service with many of the world's big airlines, threatening chaos if they are taken out of service. Boeing was also still recovering from the damage to its reputation caused by previous fatal crashes involving its 737 MAX. It has also faced repeated questions over its manufacturing quality. On Thursday, company boss Kelly Ortberg said he would scrap plans to attend next week's Paris Air Show, instead focusing on the investigation into the crash. For now, officials say there's no evidence to suggest design or manufacturing flaws played a role. In the US, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy said watchdogs would act fast in response to any new findings.
If there's a need for a change due to something that we learn on this crash, new information, we make those changes immediately because, again, safety is the top priority, yes.
The engines on the jet were made by US giant GE Aerospace, which will also be involved in investigations. Now the crash is a huge blow to Air India, which had set out plans to rebuild itself after years of underinvestment. It has placed orders for 570 new planes in recent years and was in talks for dozens more. Boss Campbell Wilson warned of a difficult road ahead.
The investigations will take time, but anything we can do now, we are doing.
The airline's reputation may rest on what is uncovered in the days ahead.
Representative Anna Paulina Luna announced that both George Soros and Neville Singham are being called in to testify over funding leftist riots and radical political groups. Representative Luna said that a letter was going out from all the members of the Oversight Committee. She also said that if they do not come in to testify, they would face subpoenas and be held in contempt of Congress. She said Singham is advocating for the Chinese regime, yet is not a registered foreign agent. Coming up, overwhelming bipartisan support on the House floor as lawmakers pass a bill to address the fentanyl crisis. President Trump is expected to sign the bill. That and more when we come back after the break.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The walls surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic. So I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
250 years of valor, honor, and sacrifice. A parade celebrating the birth of the U.S. Army in our nation's capital, showcasing America's military might.
This parade salutes our soldiers' remarkable strength and unbeatable spirit. You won't want to miss it.
Tune in for our live special coverage Saturday, June 14th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on NTD.
A bill to address the fentanyl crisis now heads to President Trump's desk. It would increase penalties for fentanyl trafficking. Republicans and Democrats support the measure. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the details.
On a vote of 321 to 104, with more than 100 Democrats joining the GOP in support, lawmakers in the House passed the Halt Fentanyl Act on Thursday.
Opioid overdoses have become an epidemic in this country. Last year, over 100,000 Americans lost their lives to overdose, and fentanyl poisoning is the driving force behind that. But, Mr. Speaker, it is not just the country at large that's experienced this problem. In my own district, we've seen an over 1,000% increase in the rate of fentanyl poisoning and deaths.
The Halt Fentanyl Act will make fentanyl a Schedule I drug, putting it on par with heroin. Though the action saw strong bipartisan support, some who opposed it expressed concerns about the permanent fix and increased penalties for those involved in fentanyl trafficking.
The temporary option would have left the door open for an off-ramp to substances found to have potential medical applications. But this Republican bill would also exacerbate inequities in our criminal justice system because drugs placed on Schedule I include mandatory minimum sentencing.
Others, though, said the bill is critical as the Chinese regime is involved.
This bill is a critical step in combating the opioid crisis in our country because China and Mexico are heavily involved in this business. China sends the precursors of fentanyl and fentanyl analogs, the API or active pharmaceutical ingredients, to the cartels in Mexico, who are then making the drugs and bringing it across our borders. By making these analogs permanently Schedule I, it removes the incentive to traffic these drugs into our country due to the penalties if you are caught.
He noted that after Congress previously placed fentanyl into Schedule I temporarily, there was a 930% decrease in fentanyl analogs coming into the country. Analogs are often deadly alterations of medical fentanyl. The bill has already passed the Senate, and President Trump is expected to sign it. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
A new statewide survey shows most Californians support a smaller federal government and reject a key progressive policy. The Public Policy Institute of California found 57% of residents back downsizing Washington, while 58% now oppose taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. The first time since 2015 a majority has opposed that program. The poll also shows that 53% of Californians support cutting foreign aid. The poll also showed strong opposition to new tariffs, 72% against tariffs on Canada, 70% on Mexico, and 63% on China. Meanwhile, around 60% oppose cutting environmental regulations to increase oil and gas drilling. Economically, nearly 3 in 4 expect bad times ahead, while 54% said they felt about the same as a year ago. President Trump's attempt to make changes to federal elections has been blocked. Today, a federal judge sided with a group of Democratic state attorneys general who challenged the effort. Trump's March 25th executive order would have required proof of citizenship for anyone registering to vote for federal elections. The action would also have set an election day deadline for mail-in ballots. The White House had defended the order as a, quote, standing up for free, fair, and honest elections. The administration called proof of citizenship a common-sense requirement. Massachusetts District Judge Dennis J. Casper granted a preliminary injunction today, ruling that the Constitution doesn't give the president authority on how states conduct elections. A new effort to protect American AI from foreign threats, with Democrats and Republicans on the House Committee on the Chinese Communist Party introducing a bill. Chairman John Muhlenar said the goal is to help America win the AI race. The Advanced AI Security Readiness Act would empower the National Security Agency to detect threats targeting AI and prevent espionage and intellectual theft. Ranking member Raja Krishnamurti said, quote, As adversaries like the Chinese Communist Party seek to exploit vulnerabilities in our AI infrastructure, we must ensure the United States remains several steps ahead. Kosovo's government said on Wednesday that it has accepted a request to receive migrants deported from the United States. The initial plan is to take in 50 deportees per year. The U.S. is looking for partners willing to take in third-party nationals. This is part of President Donald Trump's plan to carry out a record number of deportations. Kosovo already has a deal to receive 300 prison inmates from Denmark beginning in 2027 in return for over $241 million over the next decade. The country has also expressed interest in receiving deportees from Britain. Kosovo and U.S. relations are particularly strong. The U.S. led efforts to support Kosovo's independence from Serbia in 2008. Kosovo's government said that they hold the support of the U.S. in high regard. Taiwan is eyeing sea drones to counter the military threat from communist China as the island takes lessons from Ukraine. One company is now testing that could eventually become a powerful but not flashy new weapon. Here are the details.
Just off a small fishing port on Taiwan's Pacific coast, a local company is testing what could be a new weapon in the island's military arsenal: sea drones. They're a powerful, if unglamorous, weapon that's been used to great effect by Ukraine in the Black Sea against Russia. Now, Taiwan's learning how it could use sea drones as an effective and low-cost way to fend off any possible Chinese invasion. China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has ramped up its military pressure over the past 5 years, while Taiwan's government rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims. This Sea Shark 800 unmanned surface vessel, or USV, has been developed by Taiwanese manufacturer Thunder Tiger. The company's chairman, William Chen, told Reuters that they've seen USVs being deployed in Ukraine to ambush Russia, and that Taiwanese companies were paying attention.
If you look at the situation at the Taiwan Strait, we are outnumbered by China. But if we have enough USVs, we can deploy them along the east coast across Taiwan. They won't know where we placed them, as they are too small to detect and can be hidden. Therefore, every step becomes a danger, and this is a deterrence.
Chen told Reuters the Sea Shark 800 can carry 2,600 pounds of explosives and travel up to 310 miles. These uncrewed and remotely controlled small vessels can be guided towards ships or potentially even attack targets in the air. They're being developed in Taiwan at a time when the United States is pushing the country to transform its armed forces, with a view to wage asymmetric warfare using mobile, smaller, and often cheaper weapons which still pack a targeted punch. Chen Kuan-ting, a lawmaker for Taiwan's ruling party who sits on the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, told Reuters that USVs can deter China. He says that's because Taiwan is not the attacking side.
As long as we are prepared, we can defend our capital effectively. The whole island can be defended. So now we need to figure out the most economical way to effectively deter China, so they know that if they invade Taiwan, they are going to pay a much higher cost and face greater difficulties than if it were Ukraine. This is what we do next. The best way is to prevent war from ever happening.
Taiwan's Defense Ministry's Research and Development arm has termed the sea drone plan the Swift and Sudden Project. So far, it has a modest budget of around $26 million, with Taiwan's defense minister this week saying sea drones would be included in an additional spending package yet to be announced. Next week, Thunder Tiger will be among 12 Taiwanese and foreign companies joining a defense ministry exhibition to showcase USVs that may end up being added to Taiwan's arsenal.
VPN apps meant to hide internet users' browsing data could be sending that data to China, which will be harming Americans' cybersecurity. Many of these apps are available on your phones on the Google and App stores. The Tech Transparency Project found that 20 of the top VPN, or virtual private network apps, listed on the app stores as free are actually linked to China and even linked to a Chinese company under U.S. sanctions. VPNs are online privacy protection tools, but Chinese companies are required to hand over data to Chinese authorities when requested and without obtaining warrants. The report first came out in April. A follow-up published yesterday says Apple removed 3 of the problematic apps, but the others are still available. Google has not removed any. NBC News contacted developers for the 17 remaining apps. It says only 2 claimed not to have links to China, and for those 2, documents nonetheless indicate they are Chinese-linked entities. Coming up, President Trump and First Lady Melania welcomed lawmakers from both parties at the annual congressional picnic. The president addressed the crowd from a White House balcony. That and more after the break.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids, and just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids, just in case I didn't make it.
Be strong. Take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me.
Please call now or go to helpheart.org with your donation to help save lives.
You can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that help save my life.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
Heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S.
That's why it's so important that you call or go online right now with your generous gift.
I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. We all need your help. And your donation can literally help save a life.
Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now with your gift of any amount.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
A summer tradition at the White House, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump welcomed lawmakers and their families at the annual congressional picnic. The event took place yesterday on the White House South Lawn in Washington, D.C. Here's a look at the tradition.
Trump spoke from a White House balcony. He welcomed members of the House and Senate from both parties.
Beautiful Republicans and beautiful Democrats. We have them both. And it's nice to mention them in the same breath, frankly. And I'm delighted to welcome all of the members of the House and Senate and your beautiful families. A great honor to have you at the White House and to the annual White House Congressional Picnic.
The president also previewed the upcoming military parade to mark the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. The event coincides with his 79th birthday. While the Army has stated it does not plan to formally acknowledge the occasion, Trump is expected to play a prominent role in the celebrations.
On Saturday, we're coming together to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army
with a grand parade, a military parade that I don't think we've ever seen the likes of what you're going to see. I hope the weather's okay, but actually if it's not, that brings you good luck. And that's okay too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the tanks at all. It doesn't affect the soldiers. They're used to it. They're tough, smart.
The U.S. Army was showcasing some of the aircraft that will be flying over Washington for the anniversary. Service members from the 82nd Airborne Division who are participating in the flyover expressed their excitement and gratitude for the opportunity.
I think we're celebrating a lot of good history as far as those who've sacrificed. That's something to always be celebrated. So I hope we remember where we came from and are thankful for everything we have.
Some became emotional when talking about the opportunity.
For me, it's, as you can tell, I'm pretty emotional over it. I'm extremely excited and honored to especially take part in this. Out of all of the people we have across the services and all the people we have in the Army who could be here standing in my position, I got picked to do this, and I'm extremely excited.
The military parade commemorating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary will occur on Saturday, June 14th.
Join us for live special coverage of the U.S. Army's 250th birthday celebration from our nation's capital. Tomorrow, June 14th, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on NTD. And tomorrow, we also have an NTD exclusive interview. Steve Lance sits down with U.S. Secretary of Veteran Affairs Doug Collins. They talk about leading the department through faith and compassion, cutting wait times for veterans, and of course, the historic parade in Washington, D.C., celebrating the Army's 250th anniversary. Here's just a quick preview.
I want to talk about your faith.
Yes.
You're still a chaplain.
Yes.
In the military. Talk to us about how your faith has guided you through the process and how it still may.
There's no, I can't think of doing my job without it. It's like my glasses. I mean, I can see technically without my glasses, but when I put my glasses on, I see much clearer. Well, my faith is that way. It's not something I can take on and off. It's who I have to see what I believe God has called me to do. And so faith, it makes me want to help others. It makes me compassionate, but it also makes me firm resolve that sometimes you have to stand and fight. There's things that are not worth compromising on. And this job for me is taking care of people. It's actually not accepting the bureaucratic answer. It's not accepting we've always done it that way before. I believe God's put us at a special time and a special purpose for a lot of things. So for me, faith is all. I mean, I have, outside my Savior, Jesus, I have nothing. And so I think that's the thing that drives me. And it also gives me another perspective.
Catch the full interview tomorrow, June 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern, followed by our live special coverage of the Army's 250th birthday parade in Washington, D.C. Don't miss it. Coming up, Representative Anna Paulina Luna announces George Soros and Neville Singham are being called in to testify over funding leftist riots and radical political groups. She said if they don't comply, they'll be held in contempt of Congress. That and more after the break.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will